Protect your DNA. BioPQQ can promote formation of new mitochondria. Infowars.com.
Well, everybody knows that I celebrate humanity, and I love the empowerment of humanity. And America's not perfect, but I love our country, and I love our military, because they may get sent on some good missions, some bad missions. But when it comes to the opposite of some of the leftist, anti-American, communist slugs that we see out of these anti-Trump rallies and the rest of it, there's our military and then our special forces. And I can't get into, obviously, because I don't even want to know and don't get to know all the special units that Tim Kennedy's part of, some of the stuff he's done. Just know this: he rewrote the Army's Close Quarters Combat Manual a few years ago, and it's basically based on the training and things he's done. He's been part of a lot of, obviously, elite military units and secret operations around the world. And it's, pretty much a Chris Kyle level career and then some. But these guys don't brag in the Army. It's okay if the Navy SEALs do. We love them as well. But I tell you, Tim, so much happening. We had you set up for the show a while back, a few days ago. And then, boom, this happens this morning. There is so much to get into. Tim Kennedy, MMA.com on Twitter. Tim Kennedy, MMA, Facebook.com/Tim Kennedy. And then, of course, you have your sheepdog response. That is so integral and so key. And then, of course, you're doing your middle heavyweight fighting there at the UFC. So much going on. You're one of the co-hosts and investigators on a great show, Hunting Hitler. And then behind the scenes, you've got all this other military career going on. So a very, very busy guy. And one reason I was asking you what areas you want to get into, because a lot of it I know you obviously can't talk about, but some we will. So great to have you here, my friend. Great to have you and Shane here today. Fellow Texans, where do you want to start? Obviously, probably the situation in Europe.
Yeah. I mean, when we talked last time, ISIS had just come out and said that they're wanting to kill me. They want to behead me. And the FBI came and said, hey, you're on the hit list. And when we talked then, I said, this isn't the beginning. This isn't the end. This is the beginning. Like from San Bernardino to Paris, Cologne, Germany, this is just the start of it. And I think we even discussed specifically Belgium. And I said, it's going to be coming to the UK. And
yeah, we talked about it.
We did. And here we are, just, like a few weeks later, a month later, and it's come to fruition. That's scary. It's nowhere near ending. It's just starting. This is the beginning of what I think is going to be a horrific change in Europe. And it's truly a horrific change of an events.
Let me ask you the question. Why do you think Merkel, Hollande would advertise to Turkey to bring these people in? Why are they bringing them here? Why are they not even checking their IDs? That's in the news. They won't tell governors like ours where they're going, what the numbers are. We've investigated. A report's coming out next week. It's 20 times what they're saying conservatively. What's going on?
It's conjecture can only go so far to say we know what happens when the percentage increases of the Muslims in a respective area and the corresponding terrorist attacks that go along with it. The Paris attacker that just got arrested last week, we talk about these Muslim majorities that, are saying, oh, these are bad, horrific acts. But this guy has been living there in the open for the past month. And they know and they knew that this guy was there, and they let him just live his life. So if this is a testament, if this is an example of what can happen, so we know what happened in Paris and we know what they're capable of, and then he went back into a Muslim community and then just disappeared. He didn't have to hide. He could stay in the open and with no fear or consequence for what he did.
No other group would support something like that.
No. And that is going to happen everywhere else. That's going to happen here. That's going to happen in the UK. It's going to happen again in France. It's going to happen again in Germany. This is just the beginning.
Well, you predicted it when you were here a few months ago, specifically from your training, your background all over the world, in national security, you name it. Specifically, why were you saying it's coming? Why is it going to get worse? And then again, how does the political structure think it's going to get away with bringing 5 million into Europe, hundreds of thousands into the U.S., when it kicks off like San Bernardino? What's the calculus politically that the political class won't get in trouble for that?
I have no idea how the politicians can continue to escape this very clear statistic of there's X number of terrorists, with this group of populace that you're bringing in. So if you have, let's just say conservatively, 10%, which is very conservative. They're saying the radicalized majority of the immigrants that are going to be brought to the U.S., somewhere between 20 and 30% have been radicalized, that they are fanatics and that are looking for an opportunity to execute a mission. So let's just say 10%. That's 1 in 10, right? So if you're going to bring somebody over to your house for dinner, 10 people, one of which could be a terrorist, you're still going to invite them over? No, you're not. That's insane, right? There's not a chance you'd bring any of them at 10%, at 1%. But we know that it's somewhere between 10 and 20%. So that the current establishment is letting these people in, and they're not vetting them. They're welcoming them with open arms. There has to be a bigger picture here of why they're doing it. I don't know what that is. I can only, in my worst nightmare, imagine what's going to happen if we continue to let them in. It's going to be more attacks that are just going to get more and more horrific.
Well, Germany and France have declared civil emergencies, and they've taken libertarian and nationalist groups' rights. They've arrested Marie Le Pen, who is the nationalist frontrunner for president. She's not even as hardcore as Trump. She's more like a Ronald Reagan. And they've arrested her twice now. They're talking about putting her in prison for saying we're facing the greatest threat since Nazi Germany and France from radical Muslims. They have arrested her and say they may disqualify her from president. So to me, it's pretty clear the left is allied with these jihadis and protecting them.
I don't understand why. That's the big question for me to seek an answer for is why. Why are they protecting them? The obvious implications of political correctness. It's been driven and pounded into us for now the past 10 years. No, I realize that you live in San Bernardino and you think that the people living door to you look suspicious and they're dressing and acting like radicals. But no, you can't say anything because that would be racist. So don't say anything.
Well, the FBI 2 years before was on them and got pulled off and almost charged for civil rights violation going after those very two. They should have gotten an award to be on the very two.
Yeah, the opportunities to end this, we can't call it a religion anymore, because when a religion then becomes a cult, the shift is clear. It's not an ideology of trying to peacefully appreciate, some deity. This at this juncture is trying to change at a fundamental level a way of life. And that's our way of life, the American way of life. And they are going at it at every single way that they can. If there's a form of liberty, they want it to be destroyed, whether it's suicide bomb or ridiculous propaganda. They're trying to very efficiently destroy what we view as...
Well, sure. Some would argue, oh, well, we went into their countries and did all this. But then they go and attack the non-radical countries, and then all these liberal countries who aren't involved in all this, that's who they go attack. So it seems like the more you kiss their butt, the more they attack you.
Yeah, the idea of tolerance, that we can just be more accepting, and if we opened our doors and open arms and hug them and showed them and try to appreciate their culture, that is completely moronic and idiotic. There is not a single ounce of support statistically or anywhere in my experience that would demonstrate that makes any sense.
Well, you've been over there constantly. A lot of the locals obviously invited forces trying to stabilize things, and some of the wars were obviously wrong. I mean, I'm not defending any of that, but I talked to Biggs, who was over in Brussels right after the attacks, days after, and he said more people were angry at them for being, quote, Europeans or Westerners than he saw in Afghanistan and Iraq. And so he was questioning, they get more radicalized once they come into leftist countries.
Yeah, it's because it's a vacuum. It's an opportunity for their fanatic ideology to grow, to blossom. It's a fertile environment where they have limitless restrictions. So, if you're in northern Iraq and you want to, be part of ISIS, there's some pushback. The Kurds are going to try to kill you. There is obviously the American forces are there in a straight up looking for an opportunity.
A lot of the non-radical Muslims aren't naive. They don't want the Wahhabis.
Absolutely, because they know bombs start dropping, drones start flying. They don't want anything. They don't want those guys near them. But then they come to Belgium, and there's no drones. There's no American forces. There's no Kurds. It's just a perfect, ripe, fertile environment for them to grow organically right there. These fanatic, crazy. I mean, they're crazy. They're crazy.
They tried to attack Biggs and my crew and to run cars into them. They couldn't even get in businesses. It was like a movie. They were just, get out of here.
I was there last year for a USO tour in Belgium, and I was riding on a train, and me and 3 other Americans were sitting there together, and there was this girl that got onto the train, and 3 Middle Eastern men kind of started maneuvering around this girl very aggressively, and everybody started like shifting away to not look at what was going on. And me and my friends were like, oh, hell no, is this going to happen right in front of us? So we stood up and we went and sat next to the girl. She was shaking because she knew what was about to happen. She was going to be brought up.
That's like it was Americans in France that stood up for the guy with the gun.
Yes.
They were all just going to lay down.
Yeah. Everybody else on the train, with the train going into Paris, when the guy came out of the bathroom with a gun within linear target. That is a dream come true for a terrorist. All he has to do is shoot down this train. Everything in front of him is going to die. Now, a couple Americans on the train says, no, we saw this in 9/11, not going to happen again.
Thousands of years ago, there was a basic form of chivalry. Our ancestors would hear the drums of war, giving the warriors of the tribe a chance to organize and prepare a defense. 60 years ago, when foreign air forces were approaching filled with bombs, they had drums of their own, air raid sirens. But in the 21st century, there are silent weapons for quiet war. Pathogens added to the food and water, and to the lining of plastics that destroy our vitality, turn off our hormones, and accelerate our journey towards death. I personally counter this onslaught with Anthroplex. Anthroplex is designed with known organic concentrated herbs to create the basic foundation to normal metabolic activity inside the human body. Discover why Anthroplex is turning so many heads today. It's time for us to take our bodies back into our own hands, and it starts at InfoWarsLife.com with Anthroplex.